Is Ukraine vulnerable at this stage? And what could be the objective of Russia's repeated targeted attacks on Ukraine's infrastructure?
Because of the manpower issue on the Ukraine side, they simply don't have enough men, even with this mobilization, to offset losses, much less to create a surplus that they could then train and then try and drive Russia out. Russia, meanwhile, does have more personnel. They are recruiting many more than they lose, and their industrial capacity continues to crank out at high speeds, so they will always have an advantage in firepower. And especially when you're talking about this energy infrastructure, it's got multiple reasons and purposes for the Russian side. Number one is because it knocks out their energy and it makes it difficult for them to even move supplies around the country, move troops around the country, get reinforcements or anything else even to the front line. And then, of course, it also impinges on their ability to make anything domestically, because it just constantly cuts the electricity out, or the missiles themselves hit the stores of electricity or the warehouses. So every way you look at it, because of the disparity in air defense and air power, this is just going to continue to get worse for Ukraine.
Colonel Davis, what do you think the lack of air defense systems is doing to Ukraine? And is Russia or the Russian forces taking advantage of this weakness?
With 100% certainty they are, and you see it across the board. This current shot overnight where you had the 50 missiles and the 20 drones hitting targets all over the country shows you that some of these targets have been repeatedly hit. Two of the thermal processing plants today had previously been hit. They had done minimal kinds of repair to try to get it back online, and Russia went back in and hit it again to knock it out. And as I think your correspondent mentioned there a minute ago, a lot of the spare parts necessary for this are so old, they're just not manufactured anymore, and it's hard to get onto that. But you also see this at the front line, at the literal front lines, at the supply area of the front lines. Russia is using these glide bombs, these pinpoint munitions. They're using air power. They're using drones. They're using artillery. Every way you look, these things keep coming in, and Ukraine simply doesn't have the air power to defend them. The few they still have are around, Kiev and some of these other high-profile targets, and even that is insufficient. So there's just not enough interceptor missiles or systems in the West to offset this, even if they literally gave everything they had, and no one in the West is going to give everything they have. So there is no prospect to get this imbalance fixed anytime soon.
Colonel Davis, the issue of sanctions against Russia has now popped up again. Italy is the G7 host in a month's time, and its defense minister is saying that sanctions have failed to deter Russia and diplomatic solution should be explored. What do you think about that?
It's time for us to be honest with ourselves, in the West especially. And we see that, we've been trying to sanction Russia for 10 years. Really all the way back to 2014 when they annexed illegally Crimea, and all the things forward, of course, in 2022 when it ramped up to an all-new high. But look, Russia's used to this. They have learned how to endure the sanctions, and now that they've modified their economy so it goes elsewhere, so it's less restrictive and it's less vulnerable to these sanctions. So they're not going to work. If we ever needed any doubt, just look at the economic performance of Russia now compared to the West and Europe, and you see it didn't work. So why try something that's not going to work again, instead of saying militarily it's not winnable, economically it's the levers are now weakened on our side. Let's find a negotiated settlement and end the suffering for the Ukrainian people. That is attainable and makes some sense.